Hey guys, AKIL'S here. Today we are talking about full-time trading and what it takes to trade full-time, and should that actually be a goal of yours. Now, before we hop in, this episode of the Trading Coach Podcast is a video episode. All of the fancy metrics say that I get more views when I am on camera, which just inflates my ego and makes me seem like I'm even more handsomer than I originally thought. So thank you for checking me out. If you haven't done so already, make sure you rate and review the podcast. That's the best way to support. That way I am motivated to keep kicking out these cool episodes. Today's episode was inspired by a question that I got recently, right? At the end of November, we hosted a workshop called Trading Unmasked. It was an amazing workshop. Did a little bit differently than previous workshops, kind of kept it more closed door than usual. And because of that, it was a very awesome atmosphere that was very focused, and there were very little distractions. You know, yours truly likes to get distracted easily. However, there was one question that came in that distracted me the slightest of bits, and that was the question of, Akil, how much money does it take to trade full time? And by no means is this a bad question. This is a very relevant question. If you fast forward or rewind, right, opposite of fast forward, to when I first started trading, I was asking myself the same question. I had aspirations of learning how to trade in about a week or so and then going full time right after that, right? Not really realistic, but I didn't really have any proper guidance. There were no Trading Coach podcast episodes for me to listen to back then, so I couldn't get guided and bombarded with knowledge bombs that give me a realistic view of trading. All I had was the internet, which was trying to sell me every and anything. So whatever my question was, it was like, yeah, sure, you can do that. But it's a legitimate question because it's something that many of us traders aspire to do, and we'll kind of recycle that a little bit later and talk about, should we aspire to do that? Maybe yes, maybe no, we'll see. But it's also a question that I hate because there is absolutely no answer that works for everyone. You see, the thing is, we're all in different situations. I'll take you back to before I started trading. I was working 3 jobs. I was making $30,000 a year. This is back in 2007, right? 2007, 2008. And I was on top of the world, right? I didn't have a care in the world. I was making more money than I possibly knew what to do with, and my life was great. Fast forward to 2024, is $30,000 even a livable wage right now? No, I think you'd be pretty hard to struggle, at least here in the United States, making $30,000 a year, right? Especially with now that I have kids and inflation going up and all that fun stuff, right? So you can see different situations. So back then, if I were to make $30,000 a year from my trading, I'd be fine. If I were to make $30,000 a year now from my trading and live full time simply off of that, it would be a little bit of a struggle, right? So depending on how old you are, depending on how many responsibilities you have, rent, mortgage, kids, car notes, whatever it may be, depending on where you're at in the world, right? It is much cheaper to live where I'm at right now versus living where I grew up. For example, the house that I live in right now, right? I bought this for about, what was it? I usually don't like giving out personal information, but it was a long time ago, so the value has changed. But I bought this a long time ago for about, I think it was $250,000, right? Just to give you an example, this same type of house, this same type of property in my hometown of Philadelphia would be worth way over $1 million, just because there's different values based on where we're living, right? Cost of living in New York is a lot different than cost of living in Montana, right? So I say all that for you to see that, hey, there's not kind of one magic number that I can tell you that works for everyone. Everyone is a little bit different. Jason mentioned this in the workshop, right? A homeless person or an unhoused person is going to require a lot less to have a comfortable life than someone that's used to making $200,000 a year from their job. With that being said, I don't want to leave the question unanswered, so let's dig into it a little bit. If you want to know what it takes to live full time, right, off of your trading, there's a few things you need to take into account. One, how much does it currently cost for you to live? And you got to make the decision. Am I just living, like barely making it, like water is here and I'm just, right, barely got my head above that? That's going to be a horrible screenshot somewhere. Maybe I'll make it the title of this podcast. Or do you want to live comfortably, right? everyone's a little bit different, right? Some people want to live comfortably. Some people are okay just kind of barely making it. But do the analysis, right? Look through your finances and whatnot and figure out, what does it cost you to live? What does it cost you to live at a minimum? What does it cost you to live at a comfortable level, right? Those are going to give you ranges of what your lifestyle costs. Now, it's not as simple as just making from your trading enough to fund your lifestyle, because there is a little someone called Uncle Sam, and Uncle Sam likes to have his hand out, and Uncle Sam likes to say, hey, whatever you make, you're going to give me some of that. I don't need to explain myself. It's just mine, right? So as a trader, and this is something that people don't take into account, you have to take into account that you will have to pay taxes. Now, what are taxes? How much are taxes? Do you have to pay taxes, right? Again, that is going to be different depending on where you're at. Here in the US, right? State by state, there are different rules for taxes. I know that the UK laws are a little bit different than here in the United States. The Australian laws on trading taxes are a little bit different. So you want to consult your local tax professional and say, this is what I do. What do I need to be prepared to pay in taxes? There's even a difference between what type of trader you are. Are you an active trader? Are you an investor? That's going to make a big difference in how much you're paying. But don't forget that piece of the pie, because whatever you make, Uncle Sam or Uncle whoever it is, wherever you live, some uncle is going to take a part of that, and you need to be prepared to pay that. Another thing, right? So we have our big circle here. Uncle Sam took a piece of the pie out. I wish I had an actual pie. I'm pretty hungry. That'd be cool to eat a pie live on camera while I'm doing this, just as an excuse to film a podcast. But after Uncle Sam takes his slice of the pie, something else you need to keep in mind is this, right? You need to roll money over into the account. Now, I shouldn't say you need to, but you should. And what I mean by roll money over or back into the account is this, right? If you make a certain amount a year, let's say you have a $10,000 account and you make $5,000 on a year, a 50% return, great job. That is phenomenal. If you take that entire $5,000 out, you're starting next year with $10,000, right? Now, yes, your return on investment may increase slightly as you become a better trader, but there is a cap on that, right? So I don't think you're necessarily going to go from a 50% return to like an 80% return. Regardless, you see what I mean, right? In order to make more, you have to do more, right? It's no different than a 9-to-5 job where you have a set, if you're getting paid hourly, you have a set hourly wage. And in order to make a bigger check, you have to work more hours. You have to do more to make more. The beauty of trading is we don't have to do more to make more. We have the power of compounding. If I make a 50% return off my $10,000 account, and now I take that $10,000 and I add it back into, or I take that $5,000, and I put it back into my account. Now I start the next year with $15,000. Now, all of a sudden, I'm making that same return on investment because nothing really changes. If anything, it changes for the better if you implement a money management strategy. But now I'm making a 50% return off of $15,000. So instead of making $5,000, I'm making $750,000. I'm making $7,500. Math, right? I did all my math in the last podcast when I was trying to convert money in 1929 to money in 2025, right? Math. For you guys that saw that episode. But that is something that you need to consider. So big pie of money, Uncle Sam takes a piece. You also need to dedicate a piece to roll over back into your account as well. That way you can continue to grow. Now, not to get on too big of a rant about compounding, because we've spoken about that, the power of compounding in many podcast episodes. But if you are unfamiliar with compounding and if you're under-satisfied with your returns, I would encourage you to do this, right? Look at your return on investment, your expected return on investment. Look at your account size and continue to track it, what you would make year by year. Now, the first few years aren't going to seem like much. It's going to be like this. But when you get to year, I think it's like 6 or 7, that's when you see things exponentially take off. So if you want some kind of proof that patience pays literally get a spreadsheet or a Word document or write it on your arm for all I care, right? Write down what the power of compounding looks like over the years, and it'll kind of give you that proof and that belief where it's like, man, This is why I need to continually add money into the account, because it's going to grow faster and faster and faster and faster and faster the more that I have in there. Now, the last piece of the puzzle, or at least of the important questions that you want to ask yourself, is how much do I need for other things, right? Remember, just because we're making trading money, right, and we're living full time off of our trading, doesn't mean that we need to forget about everything else, right? We have our normal expenses, we have our Uncle Sam, we have our rolling back into the account, but we still want to take care of the rest of our personal finances. So like, do you have a savings fund where you're saving for something? Do you have an emergencies fund that money needs to be put in? Do you have a play fund, right, where you pay yourself? Like, this is the money that I do cool things with, family vacations, buy cars, whatever it is that you do fun, go out to the club and dance, I don't know, buy the bar, whatever you do with your fun money. We need to make sure that we are paying those accounts as well, because that's all part of kind of your well-balanced personal finance system. So you can see, big pie, there's a lot of pieces that come out of it. So just because you're making a certain return with your trading doesn't mean all of that is kind of going into your pocket. Only a small percentage is going onto your pocket. And this is why you need a lot more than you might originally think. Again, it's one of those things, right? Dating myself, I used to grow up watching a show called The Jetsons. I remember the intro was the funniest because George Jetson would get paid, he'd have this big thing, and then every one of his family members would come and take all his money. The most famous one was his wife at the end. You know how wives do, right? He has the wallet, he gives her $1, she takes the wallet, he's stuck with the $1. That is pretty much what trading is like. I hope my wife isn't watching this. Love you, honey. So hopefully you took the time to do that math. And I don't say that to discourage you. I say that to encourage you, and so that you have a realistic expectation of what to expect. The worst thing you would want to do is be like me, quit 3 jobs and try to go full-time trading, only to realize that, man, I'm not making enough to do what I wanted to do. And now you've kind of burnt all your bridges behind. Again, it was a success story for me. I've gone over it time and time again. I was very young. I was very dumb. I know myself. It worked out. But I also didn't have an established career. I was working 3 odd jobs, right? So it was things that I could easily go back to. I wasn't on a career path where I was like a manager, and then once I was out, I can't get back in, right? Sounds like the mafia, right? I was in a situation where if it didn't work out for me, I can always go back to cleaning toilets. I can always go back to working in the school system. They're always hiring, right? I can always go back to, I'm still coaching right now, but I can always go back to coaching, right? So it wasn't as big as a sacrifice as it may seem when you hear the thing like, oh, Akil quit 3 jobs, he's amazing, right? It was pretty planned out, and the downside was very low relative to the upside, which obviously worked out in my favor. Now, before we get into the question of do you actually need or want to be a full-time trader, just to kind of put a bow on things, right? Christmas season. If you are someone that aspires to be a full-time trader, understand it doesn't have to happen at once. You don't have to start today and by the end of the year, you're full-time, right? Make a big picture plan. We always talk about goal setting in the series of 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years, right? Make it that 10-year plan to be full-time. Again, we spoke about compounding. We spoke about the ability in previous podcasts to add to your account, maybe by getting a side job or just tightening up your personal finances, right? Once you have that number in mind, right, you can kind of do the reverse math and see that, okay, if I want to achieve this, how long will it take for me to produce that amount, like grow my account so I can produce that amount? And I've had many traders that I've worked with who have eased their way out of it, right? The most famous one being a guy who he wanted to trade full time, and it was like a 5-year plan for him. And like after year 2, he reduced his hours from like full time to like half time. Then after year like 4, he reduced his hours from part time to like quarter time. It actually came at the right moment because his job was downsizing anyway. But after that 5 years, he was finally able to go full time, but he did it very strategically and just didn't kind of go crazy with it. So now back to the question I mentioned before, do you actually want or need to be a full-time trader, right? Want is an interesting question because many of us want it, but we don't actually know what's included in it, right? There is a massive amount of pressure. Yes, there's the freedom of trading full-time and you can do whatever you want. You can choose your own hours. You have complete freedom. There's no puppet master pulling the strings on you. You are your own boss. But that comes with all of the risk, because when you are the boss and things go bad, you must pay the cost, right? The old Snoop Dogg reference, right? And that comes with a lot of pressure. We know how difficult trading psychology and perfecting your trading mind state is in general, right? Imagine when everything is riding on your ability to make profit, where if you have a bad month, ooh, things may get hairy, right? If you have a good month, maybe you get too cocky and you start taking more out and spending, right? Are you equipped to deal with that pressure? Do you want to deal with that pressure, right? I remember when I managed money, it took the joy out of trading for me, right? This was my first time handling a massive amount of money, right? I was trading like like a quarter, close to a half a mil, yeah, at one point, close to a half a mil. And the sizes of the positions I was trading were pretty much bigger than like what I was trading with my normal account at one time. And it was crazy. The emotional swings that I went on wins where I feel, I'm like, this is amazing. Like I'm rich, to losses where I'm like, oh my gosh, like how did I lose that much money in a single day? These were crazy swings, and it took pretty much the enjoyment out of trading. Instead of going to bed like I do now, where I fall fast asleep and I wake up, ooh, I wonder what the market's doing today, and I wipe the crust out my eyes. Oh, look at that, we got this, we got that, and I get to have fun with it. I was extremely stressed, right? I had hair back then. Check the videos. Long, luscious hair. It was kind of like Thor. It was flowing and whatnot. Golden, some would say. Now it's gone, right? The stress of that took it away. We joke about the hair and stuff, but not really. It was long and flowing like Thor. Check the videos, right? I've got receipts on that. But it did make it a very stressful environment, and I didn't like trading. And I looked at myself as like, I got into trading because it was something that can bring me financial freedom of time, but it was also something that I loved. And my dad always told me, in life, you want to wake up and do something you love every day, and trading was that for me. When I was managing money with that amount, and there was a different type of pressure on, again, I'm cool with pressure on myself, but pressure from others was a little bit different. It sucked the joy out of it. And I woke up miserable every single day, and it felt like torture. I'm like, I might as well just go to a regular job if I'm going to feel this way. So something you need to take into account is like, do you want that pressure? Are you equipped to deal with that pressure? Is the pressure of full-time trading going to take the joy and love out of it? And if it does, is that worth it for you? So what's the alternative? Well, what's the problem with letting trading be a secondary income, right? I was fishing around on the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and at least here in the US, it said that over 9 million people work a secondary job. If you're watching on the video version, I'll throw up some charts that kind of show what the different types of jobs look like: primary, secondary only, 2 part-times, 2 full-time, stuff like that. But this number currently is more than it was in a very long time, right? The number had kind of set it off and went down for a little bit, and then for some reason in 2020 and afterwards, it started going up at an exponential rate. I haven't been able to dig in to what happened in 2020, but something must be up. But anyway, we're seeing more and more people work secondary jobs. And there's 2 reasons people are working secondary jobs. One is because maybe they don't have a primary job. Maybe, a lot of people got laid off in that horrible year of 2020. And instead of finding a substitute job or replacement job that is going to pay them the same as they made before, a lot of companies were hurting. A lot of people opted to work maybe a lesser paying job and then pick up a secondary job to make up for that. There are also some people who are in the opposite situation, right? There's so many kind of part-time jobs now, it's amazing. Some people just take a secondary job because it allows them to make more money, right? I have a good friend of mine who works a primary job, and he also works a secondary job. Now, he doesn't need to work that secondary job. Like, his family's not in financial struggle or anything like that, but he wants a little side money so that he can do fun things, right? So he's like, hey, I'll do a few hours a week of this secondary job to bring in some fun money that I can go and do whatever with. And that's perfectly fine. So if you're someone that's in a similar boat, either you need a secondary form of income to kind of help supplement that primary income, or maybe you just want a secondary form of income so that, hey, you don't have to touch your primary form of income and you can use this for other things, whatever you like. Trading is perfect, and some would say it's even better. So here's the thing about people that have these secondary jobs, right? A secondary job is fine, but it also costs you more time. Look at that, I'm rhyming all over the place today. Meaning this, right? if you're working a full-time job, it's probably some type of 9 to 5 or 40-hour work week, right? I don't know about you guys, but back when I used to work a million hours, I came home and I did not want to do anything. And this was pre-kids, right? You get home, you're tired, you know you got to go back the next morning. You just want to eat, chill, watch TV, play video games, do whatever. Now, if you have this secondary job, you've got to get right up, probably snack on something very unhealthy, and then work more, right? So again, it goes back to what we spoke about at the beginning. You are working more to make more. The thing about trading is this, and I don't want to underplay it by saying trading doesn't take a lot of work. It takes a massive amount of work in the beginning. I don't know why I did that. I thought it would be cool to learn the skill. But once you learn the skill, it takes less and less and less and less, right? I spoke to Greystone during the Trading Unmasked workshop. I was like, hey, Greystone, how long does it take you to do your top-down analysis in the morning? He's like, well, maybe start of the week, maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes. By the end of the week, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, right? You're investing that little time, but you're making the same amount of money that you would in that secondary job. So using trading as that secondary income, again, whether it's supporting or supplementing your primary income or whether it's just the fun money, the beauty that comes with that is after you've put in all those hours to get skilled at trading, you don't need to invest that much time. You can easily come home, look at the charts for 30 minutes a day, and put yourself in position to make profit. So you're still making the money without the time investment as well. And that's going to save you a lot of stress. So yes, everyone wants to be a full-time trader. It's a cool label. Hey, full-time trader, dude, blah, 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 blah. But let's be realistic. Full-time trading comes with a massive amount of pressure. It comes with pressure that can wreck you psychologically. It comes with pressure that can take the love away from the game. There's nothing wrong with being a trader. There's nothing wrong with making enough money to supplement your income. Even if you're not making enough to kind of quit everything and go full time, it could still be very, very, very beneficial for you. And again, compounding will take that number up and up and up and up and up over years. So when you get older, maybe you can retire a little bit earlier than you think. And most importantly, it is a skill that can be used forever. It is a skill that can be passed down through generations. It is a skill that I think everyone should be aware of. Let me know what you think. Now, when I say let me know what you think, I'm serious. Let me know what you think. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment in the comment section below. Spotify has a section where you can type in comments as well. I love reading them. They're inspirational. I just like talking trading. You can also find me on the social media apps at Akil Stokes RTM as well if you're listening to this on a different platform. I appreciate you guys checking out the show. I will see you next episode of the Trading Coach Podcast. Until then, plan your trade, trade your plan. Akil out.